Sullivan Grosz with Pearson Realty.
Tyrone Roderick Williams, CEO of Fresno Housing.
Hi, I'm Annie Foreman from Guarantee Real Estate.
Kane, Managing Director with Northmarq.
So in our industry, the farmers tend to hang out at the coffee shops and gossip, but don't believe everything that you hear coming out of there. Just enjoy the coffee.
Well, the Monarch here in Chinatown is one of our newest developments in the city of Fresno. We had over 3,000 applicants for the 57-unit complex.
Remember, you only date your interest rate, but when it comes to owning your home, it's a lifelong commitment.
2023 was not as bad a year as people were fearing, but 2024 will not be as good as everyone is hoping.
On my note.
We didn't want to end with Robin not being as positive, but it's just how it played out. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good to see all the panelists up here and everyone that we've seen here in the past, and for some new faces as well. So we changed it up a little bit this year, so they've asked me to help facilitate this panel. I think I cracked too many jokes with Nick Audino, so they figured they should separate us. So on my way here, I was thinking about the last few years, and doing this has always been a great event, but you know, I felt like agriculture didn't get the chance to really speak up and give my update. So since they put me in this position, I'm just gonna go forward and talk about the ag update real quick, and then we can hear from everyone else and their expertise. So I'm gonna start off by talking about commodity prices. So almonds, of course, are a big part of our Central Valley and California agriculture and irrigated agriculture. And we have seen for the last 3 years low almond prices. And just a few days ago, a report came out about one estimate for this year's crop based off of what people are seeing on the trees. And they're estimating 3 billion pounds, which to all of you probably doesn't mean anything. To me, it means that we are gonna have an oversupply issue again this year. It's been a very nice spring and bloom, which is great for the trees, but we're trying to chew up a lot of inventory, and the problem is that we can't do that quick enough. We've reached the point with almonds that we can't increase demand in some of the countries that we've been trying to over the years. So almond prices are actually going to start to soften a little bit more, unfortunately. And then pistachio prices took a dip last year, and walnut prices have been terrible for years. Wine grapes have another major issue. People aren't drinking enough wine that comes from the Central Valleys, so they're drinking seltzers and other things. So all of that put together, we're seeing a softening in land values because of commodity prices. The other factor is the increased cost of farming, which cost of doing business, cost of building, I'm sure is affecting your businesses as well. And then, of course, interest rates. So couple all that together, in the low-risk water regions, in the last 12 to 18 months, we've seen a 10 to 15% drop in land values. In what I call the high-risk regions, which may be single-source regions or areas with limited surface water supply, we've seen 25 to 30% drop in land values. So putting all that together, are there any bankers in the room by chance? If there are, just cover your ears here for a second. So the problem is a lot of the farmers don't carry debt on their property. They're not leveraging their land. And then there are some that are, and there's limits on loan to values, of course. Well, when you see potentially a 30% drop in people's land values, there are some borrowers right now that are just getting, a letter from their bank saying, here's an appraisal that we did on your property, and this is now what it's worth. And if they were on a 65-35% split, then they're now at, maybe a 80-20. So they have to make up a 15% loan to value. So they can't just come out of pocket and give 15% of the value of their land. And few farmers are sitting on cash like that. So if you work at the Escalade dealership, there'll probably be fewer Escalades purchased by farmers this year. It's a bad joke, but it's going to cause some problems, and what a lot of people have probably seen from the media is bankruptcies, foreclosures, and forced sales. Unfortunately, we're probably going to see that more later this year, unless we see an increase in commodity prices. And interest rates may have an effect on things, but commodity prices altogether need to start trickling back up. So I know I'm being a major downer here, but I do need to talk about water. Water, of course, the SGMA, Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, that's continuing to evolve. And we're finding out some of the areas that we thought were low risk may be medium risk, and then some are not, and then others that are put in medium risk, we're kind of finding out now that they might be high risk water properties, and that of course is affecting their land values and where people want to buy and allocate their funds for the future of farming. So that's developing. And then the last key point that I wanted to mention was solar and solar or energy projects. So after they passed the Inflation Reduction Act in California, there's been a major increase of solar developers that want to go out and buy low-cost land and then put these solar projects in place. They're doing that by providing sellers or landowners with an incentive to either lease or to purchase. Now, for example, I have some sellers that their land is worth $8,000 an acre a few years ago, and they had someone that put an option to purchase their land with solar. Once the solar project is moving forward, these people develop it, put it in, hook up to PG&E, and then sell it. And one of these parties was offered $24,000 an acre. So compared to $8,000 to $24,000, it's hard for a seller or a landowner to ignore that. Mm-hmm. So that's on the extreme side. There are some people that are wanting to retain their land and lease the property for solar energy, and that could be $2,500 an acre up to $3,000 an acre. So that's been a major change, and it's also caused a little bit some issues, because if someone encumbers their property by a solar agreement or option, and then they come to me in a year and say, Sullivan, I need to sell now. Well, it's hard to sell it if to a buyer, they either need to want the solar or the agreement and take that, or if they want to develop it to trees or something else, they can't do that with the solar agreement in place. So it's causing some hurdles. So that's all I had for ag. So I got it all out. So thanks everyone for listening. I'll start off here. Annie, you've got some interesting information about median home prices in Fresno. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I feel like that's a more optimistic statistic than everything that you just went through.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to note about median home price in Fresno County. So historically, when interest rates go up, and if you've missed the news, interest rates went up a lot. They pretty much doubled. So when interest rates go up, usually home prices come down to compensate that. We have not experienced that at all. So in Fresno County, all of these numbers are compared to last year. So median home price went up 6.8%, up to $390,000. And then what I want to point out to you is Fresno has a lot of unique neighborhoods. And so I wanted to show you different neighborhoods and what the median home price is in those areas and what a home looks like for that price. So you'll see on the screen now, Copper River at one end of the spectrum. It's a beautiful neighborhood, very highly desired. The median home price is $839,000. So much higher than the Fresno County of $390,000. That's up 26% from last year. If you move to the other end of that spectrum, we have downtown. Now you do have to keep in mind, downtown does not have a lot of purchase options. It's more of a rental market. But the median home price there is $249,000, and no statistics to compare it to last year. So I can't tell you if that's up or down or flat. And then moving into the Tower District, this is a very desirable neighborhood because of the entry-level pricing. So a lot of young buyers, first-time home buyers are moving into that area, and the median home price is $317,000, and that's up almost 25%. And then you move into Northwest Fresno. Looking at a home like this, that would cost you $440,000. That is the median home price, and that's up 10% since last year. Then moving into southeast Fresno. So this has grown a lot over the last few years. The median home price is $500,000, and that's up 7.8%. And then the very last neighborhood that I wanted to point out to you was Harlan Ranch. This does say down 1.6%. We consider that basically flat, and the median home price is $540,000.
Did you sell all these homes?
Every single one of them.
Good.
I wish.
So you talked about interest rates and how that's, you know, gone up, of course, but how has that affected people's, you know, motivation to purchase new homes, whether they're from renters or from existing homeowners?
Yeah, so definitely effect on the market in the last 18 to 24 months. When interest rates went up, demand went down. However, it did not die. We have an availability problem in California, and in Fresno County, we do not have an affordability problem from my standpoint. We have had decades of not building enough. Like our beloved mayor said, we're just not building enough, and we haven't been for many, many years, so we are way behind. Then you have to add into that, when the interest rates went up, so many homeowners who are sitting at 2 to 3% said, oh, wait a minute, I'm not going anywhere now. I'm gonna keep my interest rate because I would double my interest rate and I'm gonna pay more money. So that inventory also got held up. So it's very interesting times. We just do not have enough supply. There is still demand there. And listen, I'm optimistic about buying right now because if you are a renter, your interest rate is 100%. 7% sounds amazing to me when you compare that to renting. So yes, it's hard to give up your 2 to 3% if you're already a homeowner, but not only is 7% better than what you're doing as a renter and paying your landlord, but you also don't have the same competition that we've experienced for years. You don't have 40 offers on the table, you don't have to do seller concessions, you don't have to pay appraisal gaps. So now is a great time if that's the position you're in.
Interesting. So Robin, Annie brought up interest rates and availability versus affordability,
exactly.
Right? So that's a good plug. What do you think those factors are doing to your business?
Well, in the book, I think you'll see that 2022, we did about $450 million in transactions, which was a historic high. As we moved into 2023, you could see that it dropped considerably to around 60 million. So that's about a 60% drop. And the primary reason was interest rates. Interest rates jumped basically 60%. As we look at 2024, right now we're on track to do better than 2023. So I think looking back at last year, the interest rates definitely had a major impact. You know, obviously that leads to the question, because of this huge gap that exists between the buyer and sellers, who's gonna make the move first? The reason that you have this chasm is because of interest rates. The economy was good for us. Year-over-year rent growth was excellent. Vacancies were low. So the primary reason for the deal flow to drop was interest rates. So the question becomes, is if interest rates drop, who's gonna move? In my opinion, that if interest rates drop, buyers will move. If interest rates stay the same, buyers will move. The only way you're gonna see sellers move closer to where the buyers are is if the market tanks. What I mean by tanking, vacancies rise, in terms of they have a difficulty to experience better yield. One of the things that may cause a problem is in that rent growth that we were talking about, of double-digit renting growth. Recently, rent growth is averaging about 3 to 4%. Previous years, if you remember when we held this in 2021-22, rent increases was 12 to 14%. We couldn't sustain that growth. What the problem is that the rent growth we were experiencing masked a real underlying problem, and that's expenses. And expenses was going up just in lockstep with rent. Now that the rents are flattening out, expenses have not stopped. The biggest culprit that we had last year, and it's still into this year, is insurance. And I think that in your industry, it's affected you as well. If you can see on this graph right here, just the blue bars just represent just the amount of experience that we had in insurance costs. What's happened in the apartment business is not only the difficulty to renew, but not only the cost of renew. Two issues have come out in this last year, and is the presence of Zinsco electrical panels. That is a major problem I think all of you who own apartments are experiencing. Galvanized plumbing is another. So what we're telling owners right now is what you need to do is to be very proactive. Get in front of it. Don't wait for your insurance broker to call up and say, you're not getting renewed. Get in front of it. Find out what you have to do to get that policy renewed at as low a cost as you can. So it's one of those issues I think that you need to tackle.
Well, that's very interesting. So, and of course the renters have their own insurance too, right? You're just talking about for the building owner?
Yeah, we're only talking about the liability for the building and the replacement. The tenants are going to have their own renter's insurance.
Interesting. Okay, well, we touched on a couple topics here, but Tyrone, good to see you.
It's good to be seen and not viewed.
Yes. So I heard and I saw your video before. I love the energy. I love it. So I hope we could match that up here. But we've heard from residential in the past, and of course, Robin's a familiar face up here with multifamily, but affordable housing, and Mayor Dyer talked about it. Why don't you give us kind of an overview before meeting you? I'll say I did not know anything about this market and this industry, and what you do is, it seems like a valuable part of Fresno.
We're an essential part, and it's all about partnership. The housing Fresno Housing serves the entire county, including the city of Fresno, but we are from Firebar all the way to Orange Cove and everything in between. We have housing developments both here in the city, but our work spans all the way across the county. We are a traditional housing authority from the standpoint, yes, we own public housing units that are dispersed in cities, as you can see, all across the county. We are developing market tax credit units. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But we are unique. We stand apart from many of the other housing authorities in the country in that we develop our own. Well, now we talk about the Northmarq at Chinatown, that's our development, and it compares with any other market rate development across this city. We are proud to say that we are the affordable housing developer of choice, not just in title, but in quality and in our commitment. So what we are seeing is that there is a huge demand. The mayor alluded to it, for affordable housing. What is affordable housing? Well, from our definition, it's housing that's affordable to anyone who is paying no more than 30% of their income. Right now, particularly in Fresno, we are rent burdened. There's a huge population that is working. We talk about workforce housing, but is spending much more than 30% of their income. We focus on multifamily developments that serve a wide population, from families to seniors to veterans to youth aging out of foster care and others. And so we are the doorway to home ownership. We are developing our own first in almost 10 years subdivision that's mixed income for a wide range of potential buyers. Wow. But our challenges that we're seeing is that it's not that we don't have land, it's not that we don't have expertise, it's all about the money. Because without there being subsidy, you can't build and sell it or rent it at an affordable price. The same piece of lumber that is building luxury housing costs us the same amount to build affordable housing. But the good news is that we have an incredible partnership with the city, we have an incredible partnership with the county, and across the board, we have a whole slew of developments that we've been working on that are coming into fruition. We're having frequent ribbon cuttings and anticipating future groundbreakings. And so, yes, there are some real challenges because we have to compete for tax credits. That's the very foundation for which most affordable housing gets the funding for the construction. And to be competitive, you've got to have increased funding at the local level to be competitive. So to the degree that we partner with the city, for city projects, we can be more competitive at the state and federal level. To the degree we're partnering with the county, on the county projects, we have the ability to be more competitive as well. So we've got an incredible team, incredible track record, incredible product, and incredible
some
partners.
Beautiful buildings on there.
So we say this: if Fresno Housing is developing a project in your community or in your city, you don't have to worry about, Bear talked about tax rate. Your value will not go down. When we show up, we increase your value, whether it's your single family home neighborhood or any of the other properties involved. And we are seeing significant challenges with insurance. Yep. You raised that as an issue. That's an issue for us as well. We had to go to Lloyd's of London to get insurance for some of our projects. And so we've got to work together to figure out how to navigate, as we talk about charting our course, how to navigate those treacherous insurance waters, because they can really significantly impede our ability to move projects forward.
Very interesting. So what's the demand like for some of these in regards to applicants? Oh, they receive vouchers, is that what you've mentioned before?
When we do open up the wait list for any of our projects, we are oversubscribed. Just one example was the Monarch in Chinatown, where we had 57 units, and over 3,000 people signed up for that project. And people are like, in that part of Chinatown is changing. And we are leading the effort in making it a place that's desirable for individuals and families to live. And the Monarch is proof that people want to live in Chinatown, and proof of how deep the demand is for housing where people can pay 30% of their income and not be rent burdened.
Right. Interesting. So will you take applications from almond growers?
Well, look, depending on where the land is, we may want to talk about almond growers about looking at developing on their property, but that's a whole nother conversation. But we don't have a shortage of land. That's not, that's a misnomer. Yeah. But we're always looking for a good deal if we can find one.
Well, that's excellent. So you brought up insurance again. Annie, I want to give you a chance to talk about how insurance is affecting
Interesting that that's
homes.
a common thread for all of us. Insurance is definitely an issue. So I'm semi-joking with my clients these days of, it used to be a couple days before the close of escrow, I would say, oh, by the way, did you get your insurance? It was not a big deal. And now, before writing an offer, I'm telling clients, have you called your insurance agent? Do you have an insurance agent? You better give them this address and you better start working on this. We are having major issues where you're having to call multiple carriers just to get insurance on a property. I've heard of the Zinsco issue as well. Yeah. Roof is another big one. And if it's anything in a high fire zone, it's a real issue.
Yeah, I would expect that's a problem in your business too, where someone purchased the property 6 years ago, and then of course the insurance carrier is coming to them and saying, hey, this is what it is now, and that's affecting their
similar to Annie, what she was saying about when someone signs a contract. What we're doing is, before we even think about taking on an assignment as a listing, we want to know if this problem exists, because it will come up. So, we want to get the sign, the bottom line, but the first question of our mouth is, you got Zinsco panels? So we need to have that addressed, as well as galvanized plumbing. Those are issues. It's not that it's something that cannot be overcome, but you have to know that this is something you have to tackle at the front end. Mm-hmm. Be proactive, don't be reactive and have it, you be ambushed, because we were ambushed way too many times last year on transactions. So it's just easiest to get in front of it.
Yeah, smart. So we've talked about value add properties, and for Annie, that would be you, for lack of a better term, flippers or improver, and then reselling. But for both of you, what's a value add in your industry look like today?
Yeah, value add up until recently was basically a 3 to 5 year hold. You acquire a property, you went in, hopefully you can vacate the building, either wholly or partially, but you would renovate the units and take advantage of what I mentioned before of the year-over-year rent growth of 12 to 14%. It's not uncommon to see the delta between existing rents and the market to be $200 to $300 a month, which was just create a huge incentive. Today, it's different. Interest rates are considerably higher. Lenders are a lot more restrictive on making those deals. But more importantly, is that what you're dealing with is a pricing that you were paying for those buildings, not maybe half of what you were getting at, let's say, 50 to 70 a door. You're paying 100 to 120. Well, that just makes that margin for error just so much more difficult. And that doesn't even take in consideration the interest rate impact there. So dumb deals just don't exist anymore.
Yeah, and residential real estate, flipping does still exist, but the ROI is not the same.
Yep.
Costs are much, much higher. So that is still happening, but I would say more investors are leaning towards coming in, improving in property, and then renting it out because the demand for rentals is very high still.
And I think one of the things on affordable housing, the value add is that it's affordable for 55 years. That's an investment that we make. There's a price to pay for that investment, but for 55 years, that development is affordable. And that really is value add that is well worth the investment up front.
Sully, if I can make mention there, the interest in tax credit deals and affordable housing in today's market is quite a bit higher. One of the things that they didn't have to deal with in their sector that we had to deal with in the market rate deals is the eviction moratoriums and the lack of the ability to work your way through it. You have a guaranteed income, surety of revenue in your sector there.
Right, through our housing choice vouchers, better known as Section 8. It really does provide the landlord with a higher level of certainty and confidence that you're going to be paid, and so what we've seen through a partnership with the city, our voucher incentive program, we've significantly expanding our base of landlords who are seeing that working with Fresno Housing is not as difficult or complicated as maybe they had envisioned. And there really is a benefit to having that guaranteed income. And we're really seeing an expansion of our landlords who recognize that as an opportunity and providing that opportunity to our voucher holders across the city and throughout the county as well.
And clearly it's in high demand from the renters too. So.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And there's more that's needed. So Annie, what does 2024 look like?
So 2024 looks a lot of the same. No,
Okay.
no. Like I said when I first started, I'm optimistic about this. I think there's still opportunities, and like I said in my video, people are really hung up on interest rates, and you are only dating your interest rate. You are married to your home. So as things change in that world, you get to refinance. You don't get to change your home as easily as you get to change your interest rate. So take advantage of the less competition right now, get into a home, and then refinance. So I'm optimistic about.
And you think home values will stay consistent with some of the median home prices?
Absolutely. The demand is there, the supply is not.
Yeah.
Simple economics.
Robin, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Contrary to my Dr. Doom little excerpt right there, we all know the interest rates are going to fall. We know that. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when, okay? And I think hope is not a strategy. So I think that what we're learning about our business is that if we can operate and succeed in today's environment, it's only going to get improved as we move into a lower interest rate environment. As has been mentioned before in your industry, there's not a shortage of capital, of buyers. No, there's absolutely, when you think about the past cycle, it's totally different. So there's lots of capital, lots of money. We're 1 year past the eviction moratorium and having to survive all of those challenges that brought. Clear sailing ahead, just the way the picture shows on the wall. So there's no doubt in my mind that if I had to equate where we were in the cycle, very close to 20,000, 2012, 2014, and from there all the way till 2020 was clear sailing.
So, because I know, Tyrone, you're going to end on a positive note here, I'll say what my projections on ag. Right now with the treasuries and the returns that people can get by just putting their money in a money market account, it's limited the amount of institutional investors or passive investors in farmland that want to get into California farmland, because there's very little, if any, risk to go put your money in treasuries right now. So, we're seeing, we've transitioned, probably about 8 or 9 months ago to a buyer's market. And when the buyers have other alternatives, so like some of your industries, they're maybe more stable than commodity prices in agriculture. So we're seeing less buyers entering our market, and we think that'll continue through this year. But Tyrone?
Well, we've got a strong pipeline of projects. There's no shortage. We've got some incredible sites downtown that we're working very closely with the city on to bring mixed income, mixed use development on the former CVS site. And so more details to come on that, but that's a game changer, and we're leading that effort in partnership with the city. Across the county, from Huron, Firebaugh, Orange Cove, we've got groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings. And so as we are charting our course, 2024 is going to be a banner year for us. But we're going to be diligent in working with our municipalities and finding those resources that allow us to be competitive as we compete with state and national dollars to create more affordable housing.
Well, and I also think that Tyrone's industry, if it stays steady and there's consistent growth, then the tenants will move to some of your facilities and buildings. And then someone shared that 33%, you told me earlier today, 33% of the single family homes are being rented in Fresno. So then eventually they can transition to a rental and then a home ownership.
Yeah.
And
that's the dream.
That's the American dream. So, all right. I think at this point we can open it up for any questions. Vanessa, if you have any
yes,
that have come in.
Hello. Does anyone have any questions for me? Just go ahead. Show of hands. I mean, I can get it started. Sullivan, you caught my attention when it came to water. You were talking about land that was considered low risk now being medium risk being high risk. What's the solution there?
Ooh, I think some people are not gonna like me saying this, but we got to a point where it was who had the deepest pockets and who can drill the deepest well and take more water out to farm their crops. And we got to a point where no one was realizing the sustainability of farming in California. So I think this is probably a long time coming, and there are other states that have been doing it. So I think realizing that now we need to limit how much planting we do and utilizing that resource. Of course, it'd be great to have more reservoirs and dams built, but those take time, of course, and I know some are in the works.
All right, Sullivan, thank you. This question's for Annie. Talk about changes to the real estate commission structure.
Well, I wish that I would have placed a bet in Vegas. I'd be a millionaire right now because I knew that this would be my question. And you're going to be very disappointed in my answer. Ongoing litigation. I cannot comment on ongoing litigation. Let me tell you this. I know in my core that a realtor brings so much value. And we are always going to be needed, and you have to know your value and bring that to the table, and don't worry about all the changes that are potentially coming, and you're going to do just fine.
I think it just means there'll be more disclosures.
This isn't enough as it is.
Yeah, exactly. Any more questions?
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, we have one over here. So what is the, I'm gonna have you read that.
What's the average per unit new construction costs on apartments right now?
Vanessa, can you have him repeat that, please?
I'm gonna have you do that one more time for us.
What's the average per unit construction costs for multifamily right now?
Average cost for construction.
Boy, you talk about a moving target. In talking to developers, let's talk about on a per unit. It used to be about 250. It's probably over 300,000 a door, and I'm sure Tyrone, you can probably weigh into that. So if you're looking at a $300,000 a door, even though we built almost 4,000 units in the last 5 years, which seems like a lot, we had built 4,000 over 10 years the previous time. Of the 4,000, 3,000 were market rate and 1,000 were affordable. And a lot of that came about because we finally got rents to come up high enough to justify the construction. The problem is we didn't take in consideration construction and labor costs, which just shot up right by it. So there was one graph, I think that's in the book, that shows the amount of construction, but in reality today, we are looking at on the books about 4,000 units, of which only 150 are affordable. The chances of those 4,000 actually getting out of the ground is pretty minimal. So 300,000 a door is the number that I'm hearing developers say that it's going to take.
Vanessa?
I got a question over here, Sullivan. But this is for Robin, actually.
Oh.
I'm wondering about, just giving you more questions. Build to rent or build for rent that we're seeing in Dallas and Phoenix and other cities. I'm actually working on a project myself. I'm wondering, are you gonna see more projects that are built for rent? Are people gonna record into the ground that they're only for rent? Let's say it's a 40 unit or 60 unit project that is all single family homes that are for rent. Are you seeing the city possibly doing just recording so it can only be for rent?
Well, that is an excellent question. And if you recall back in the 09, 010, of course I've been around an awful long time, one of the things I said is that we were seeing all of the foreclosed homes being bought by Wall Street. And they bought tens of thousands of loans, which turned into tens of thousands of homes. They only did that because they thought they were just going to buy it and flip it. What they discovered is there's a huge segment of the rental population that does not want to rent an apartment. Okay? They want to rent a home. They got kids, dogs, they want the yard, they want the space. So what we were seeing today, this is a fact that just came out yesterday nationally. 1 out of 10, every new single-family homes is being built specifically to rent. Let that sink in for a minute, okay? And in Fresno alone, 38% of the single-family residents are non-owner occupied. So there are out-of-state, even international investors who are going to builders. All the big builders, I won't mention them, they're being asked to, would they be willing to build subdivisions strictly for them to keep for rent? Oh, by the way, all those homes that they bought as investments, they have no intention of selling. So if you ask yourself, where did all those first-time home buyer homes went? They're in the hands of Wall Street, and they have no intention of. In fact, rent growth on single-family rentals has been, in the last 3 years, in excess of what apartment market rates have been, because it is a huge segment of the population.
Wow. Okay, well, I know I saw a couple other hands go up, but we're out of time here. But I want to thank the panelists, Annie, Tyrone. Thank you, Robin. And we'll be around, so if you have some questions, you can snag us, and we'll be hopeful to help answer that. So thank you.